Hello and welcome to my video on the brand new 2023 S1000RR from BMW, of course. In this video I'm going to run through the little details of the bike that you might not know about, details that might help you decide if this bike is right for you or not. Number one, let's start with the looks. I think you'll agree that from any angle this thing looks awesome. That is, of course, if you can ignore the ghastly catalytic converter down there. Number two, if you go onto the BMW Motorrad website, you can configure the bike exactly how you want it, but this does not tell you when you will actually receive the bike. So for me, I wanted the bike in black and I wanted the rider modes, but I didn't want electronic suspension. So this has got electronic suspension there, and it's got the electronic suspension at the back with the sensor there. So I wanted the base model, which is effectively this bike but with manual suspension and black forks instead of gold forks. I thought the black would look better, but as it turns out it was going to take about 6 months and it was past the end of the summer before I could have it, which was not good enough for me. I've never really been a fan of electronic suspension, and I want the manual suspension so I can set it up exactly for my weight, which is 15 stone, because I'm rather tall and large. But anyway, they couldn't get hold of one, but they could get me this model, which is the Sport, which funnily enough is more expensive, obviously. So the base model comes in at 17,150 in the UK. If you want it in red, it's an extra £370, which I don't know why, because I think the black looks better anyway, and it's metallic black, so why, I don't know. Anyway, if you want the sports pack, it's an extra £1,400, which puts it up to 18,550, which is what this is. This is the Sport, and you can spec it all the way up to £30,000, which is just a waste of money in my opinion, because you're just paying for carbon fibre bling, billet bling, and a Naka Provic exhaust, which is not any different to this other than it's made of titanium. It's still got the ugly cats at the bottom. So I'd save you money and get a proper exhaust system for it. So another reason I think you can't get hold of the base model is because, as far as I can tell, the base model has the same forks and suspension as the most expensive £31,000 M1000RR. So the base model has the same suspension as the top of the range model. But I think they just had to put a starting from figure for sales, so it sounds good. It's starting from 17,150, but at the end of the day you can only really buy an 18,550 bike. Number three, things that have changed over last year's bike. So firstly, the most important change in my opinion is the geometry changes. So the previous version always had a vague feeling at the front end, especially the harder you pushed it, kind of less feedback you got from the front end basically. These changes are, I shall try and show you, the new yokes, which are less offset. Now what this means is it's giving it more trail, which is more stability, and also it has more rake. So it's a bit more raked out. I mean, we're only talking small amounts here, but what these changes do is give you a lot more feedback than before, but it doesn't really notice in flickability and turning. Still turns in really easy, and it's super stable now. Secondly is the vibrations. So the previous model was very buzzy, shall we say, and through the bars the vibrations were ridiculous. I mean, a few people have said this, and Michael Nees from MCN has said that, you know, it vibrates the bolts undone on the bike. You know, it's crazy vibrations. Seem to have addressed this one a little bit, because this is a lot better. There's less buzzing through the bars. I mean, my hands went numb after an hour ride, test ride on one, whereas this one I've ridden it for hours and it's a lot better now. So somehow they've addressed that. Thirdly is the electronics. They've been revised and they are awesome. I mean, there's some rough roads around here in Essex where I am, and you can literally pin it. You can pin it over any road surface and it just seems to work it out, and it always accelerates forwards. It never seems to cut. A lot of other bikes you get a lot of electronic cut, or you get some leery wheelies going on, but this thing just goes forwards. I don't know how they've done it. It's really good. It just goes forwards and doesn't seem to matter what the road surface is like. The next thing they've changed is the new back end. So I love it. I think it's gorgeous. Perfect lines. It's not too fat, it's not too wide, and it's not too narrow. It just looks right, really. It's really good, and you don't need a tail tidy on these bikes. I mean, it's effectively got a tail tidy as standard. As with any new bike from the factory, they come with a reflector hanging off the bottom, and here it is. It's part of this bracket, which first thing I did when I got home was undo the number plate, take the bracket off. No hacksawing, nothing like that, and you have your tail tidy as standard, with BMW logo on top, Motorrad written there. It looks awesome. I'm really impressed with that. So also with the new rear end, I shall try and take this seat cover off one-handed, which is probably not going to go well. But as far as I'm aware, I don't think the old model had this. But you pop that up like that. This is underneath. You've got a USB charging socket here, which is pretty cool, standard. Just bang your charger in there, charge your phone up. How wicked's that? These are your indicator wires, which I'd say are quick release, but they're cabled side down, so you've got to cut them off. And then that's your number plate light. Take that off, unplug them. You can take your rear end out, the tail tidy out if you want to do a track day or something like that. But to be honest, it's so small, I'll just leave it in as it is. But that's a pretty neat design, and it has enough space to put a bag of crisps maybe. So this is the underneath. I guess there should be an owner's manual in there or something like that. There's nothing there at the moment. Has a popper each side, so you have to pop them in and out when you want to remove the cover. Fairly simple, but can someone tell me, is their bike like that? There's no bolt in there, which I'm not sure if that's for the pillion seat, because it comes with the pillion seat and pegs, so that's standard. So I've got this plastic thing which is similar shape to this, but it's just plain plastic on here. That goes on, and then you put your pillion seat on top, which is not very wide, and obviously your pegs go up there. I took them off straight away because it looks cool without it, but who knows, might put it on one day if my boy wants to go on the back. Awesome clutch control, mate. Some of the other changes over the 2022 model are the new screen, which is really tall. I mean, it is perfect. You couldn't get a better shaped screen in my opinion, and that's exactly what I would have brought. You know, if I had to buy one, an aftermarket one, it would be this tall, it would be clear, so you can tuck down and see through it. Even though black would look cool, you can't beat a clear screen. It's just the perfect shape, and the wind protection is awesome. I'm 6'4", and no issues at all. When you tuck in, there's just no wind. It's just wicked, absolutely perfect. And the other thing is slide control. So I'll come around here now. Down here is the sensor. You can see that? The bottom one's a steering damper, which is adjustable, and there's a sensor. So apparently you can pin it and get some pretty good slides on it, but I won't be trying that on the road, but I'll take their word for it. I guess on the track we'll find out when I get it on the track eventually. One of the other mods are the wings, of course. I mean, they're just brilliant. They're not too much, they're not too big, they're not too small, they're just right. They're just perfectly designed. This bit's pretty cool. I mean, it just looks brilliant from the front. So my first purchase for the bike was clear headlight protectors. I did want to chip up the new headlights because they're pretty cool. I brought them from Slip Screens. Now I emailed them and said, do they fit? And they said, yeah, same headlight as the last model, they'll fit, they're great. But I put them on and they're really tight in here and here, and you can't move them anywhere because of this new design. You can't move it around, and they're chafing, they're making like a squeaking noise. And after about 50 miles I noticed they're starting to remove a bit of paint. So I've taken them off, I've contacted them, they haven't got back to me as yet, which is typical. But they're too big, they need to be smaller to fit this model. So hopefully I'll get some new ones soon. So over last year's model, this one has a different airbox. It has the S1000RR airbox, which has got different velocity stacks inside, and it makes some good noises, I tell you. It really does howl out the front. It's probably enhanced by the fact that the exhaust is fairly quiet standard. It's not really quiet, but it's fairly quiet compared to like a race system. But the induction roar is pretty awesome on this thing. And it does have different head on it. It's got revised port angles or something. Should be somewhere in the region of 210 horsepower once it's been unlocked. Another change are the brakes. So we're on Nissin calipers now. I think they were Hayes before. Well, they're awesome. I mean, I haven't had it on track yet. My only doubt will be how much fade they have on track. But on the road, I'm one finger braking everywhere, whatever speed, you only need one finger to brake. And you don't need the back brake, just the front brake, and it's seriously powerful. Now this is the base model, so the base model has standard wheels, which are, if you can see, they're all hollowed out inside. Now, you think because they're cast they're going to be heavy, but they're actually, as far as I'm aware, they're the same weight as the HP wheels you can buy for this bike, which are another £1.5 grand. They're the same weight because this has got slightly thinner discs and the other one's got like a full disc with a centre in it as well. So the weight is actually no different. So I don't see the point of getting them, to be honest. I mean, you get an extra 0.5 mm thickness of disc. So, I mean, each to their own. I think these are pretty cool. They're like I say, they're all hollow. They're so light. You can see they're light. It's amazing. One other thing which a lot of people complain about the last model, we now have black engine covers instead of the horrible gold that was on the last model. So it's black all round. That's better, isn't it? Number 4, so I'm going to go on to things that I don't like about it. So, well, basically it still sounds like a bag of nails. So these 1000cc engines from BMW, they've always sounded a bit clattery, like they need valve clearances doing straight away from new. But there seems to be less nails in this bag than last year's model, so I'll do a demonstration for you. If you can hear me over the wind. Right. As you can hear, it's a bag of nails, but it's not as bad as last year's model. So the next thing I don't like is obviously the catalytic converter. I mean, it's got to be on there. We know they've got to come out the factory with them on, but just stick a cover on it. You know, Aprilia have done it. They've stuck a cover on, and it looks pretty cool. It's not that restrictive, to be honest. It's quite well designed. You've got 4 into 2, then you've got one cat, and then one big cat at the back. So it's not actually that restricted, but it's ugly. So I want to get a cover for it. If someone's got a cover for this model, can they let me know? You know, in the comments or something. What's it like? Does it fit nice? How much? Where from? You know, let me know. So the next thing is the throttle. The throttle spring, in my opinion, is too strong. Now I don't know whether it's just because it's new. Maybe it has to be like that because after a while it might get softer. But it's too strong. You know, there's no cables on it. It's fly-by-wire. But it's too strong. So if you're going over a bumpy road, you can get a bit of kangarooing going on. And also the throttle action of the bike, you've got a lot of movement before you get going, if you know what I mean. So you go to pull away. This is the same on the last model and the model before. The BMWs are quite soft, up to about 4,000, so 4,000 revs. So if you're pulling away, you go to pull away, you need to give it more, otherwise you're going to stall it. And I stalled it yesterday and looked like a right dick in front of everyone in traffic. But you know, I don't know, maybe you can map that part out. Maybe quick action throttle, let me know if you know of any. So here's the next thing. What are these two things here? Can you guess what these are called? Go on, say it. They're not mirrors. They're basically indicator stalks, and they have this blurry reflective glass on it. Now you can't see nothing out of these mirrors. They just vibrate. Look, I'll try and get a video. I'll try and ride and get a video of them, and I'll tell you what, you can just about make out the colour of the vehicle following, but that's about it. I mean, I'm just going to take them off. I think they're just absolutely useless. So my next little niggle is the fuel cap. So has anyone ever managed to fill that up without splashing fuel over the tank? I've filled up 4 times so far, and 3 times covered the tank of petrol. So I don't know, let me know. Maybe there's a knack to it, maybe I'll get the hang of it one day, who knows. And then the next thing is, does anyone know where the engine temperature sensor is on this bike? Because at the top, got the mileage, total mileage, I'm still running it in, 243. We have tyre pressures, intake temperature, the mileage, yeah, it just goes round. I've looked through the settings, I can't find the engine temperature sensor. So for some reason this bike, as soon as it's doing 30 miles an hour, you know, it's not even hot at the moment, it's like 16, 17 degrees outside. When you're riding along, as soon as you're doing 30 miles an hour for like 30 seconds, the fan's on. But I don't know if that's because I'm still running the bike in, or you know, whether that is common with these bikes. If someone could let me know in the comments, but I'd like to know what the engine temperature is, and I can't find it. For some reason it always gets windy when I start to do a video. But anyway, next thing is BMW kindly fit these reflectors on the mudguard. I don't know, maybe they have to, but I got it off. It's an absolute pain in the arse to get them off. It's the world's strongest double-sided tape, but I can't clean this up. I mean, I don't mind this being plain black because it won't stone chip and stuff like that, but how the hell do I clean this up? It just looks second hand, doesn't it, really? You know, for a brand new bike, it looks second hand. One other thing is the forks, or the suspension in general. It's rock hard. I mean, I like a stiff bike, don't get me wrong, but this suspension is rock hard. Now I've put it onto the softest setting possible, and I'm getting too much travel now. I put a zip tie around. It's travelling too far, but if you stiffen it up, it's just rock hard. So this is part of the reason why I didn't want electronic suspension. I want to set it up how I want it. So my personal opinion is that I feel like the high-speed damping in the forks is too strong. So I don't know whether it's because they're new, maybe they'll give over time. Someone let me know if you've got the same sort of experience, but like big bumps are really hard, but then it's travelling too fast. So the slow speed damping seems okay. Next little moan is about no rad guards. Why is there no rad guards on it? Come on. My old Yamaha had rad guards. I mean, these fins were all bent up when I got it brand new. I didn't even realise till I got it home. They'd obviously marked it, putting the bike together, doing the PDI, whatever. But to be fair, they're so soft. I mean, you can bend them with your fingers so easy. So I need some rad guards. Let me know if you've got any and what they're like. Here's another one. The offset rear wheel. Can you see that? Tiny bit that side, huge bit that side. I don't mind, it looks kind of cool in a way. But I understand it's to do with the bike leaning towards the right. Especially if you're using cruise control, you take your hands off, it can lean a bit right, and they try to rectify that, but guess what? Mine still goes to the right, ever so slightly, so I haven't cured it. So some of the other things are rear brake pedal. It's so far down, there's no point, you can't adjust it, there's no point having a brake pedal, you can't reach it, so you don't really need it. Personally, I'd like it. I'd like to be able to have it up here so I can use it. You know, if you go into a corner hot, I like to dab a bit of rear brake to bring the back end round. But you can't adjust it. It's hit and stop. That's it. That's where it is. You can't use it. You just got to use your front brake only. Take it off, basically. Don't have one on, in my opinion. So some other things are the hill start control. It's not going to work because the engine's not running, but you pull the lever, activates hill start control, and then you pull it to turn it off, apparently. But it hasn't been working 100% all the time. Sometimes it locks the bike and I want to roll the bike back a bit more and I can't get it to go off straight away, and it's okay, but if you're trying to do something in a hurry, it's a bit of a pain in the arse. But you can turn it off in the dash, so that's not too bad. The other thing is indicator. I can't use the indicator without looking at it. It's in such an unnatural position. You have to look if you're going to use the indicator, because otherwise you end up hitting the wrong switch or hitting the horn. Shit, that's loud. I've hit the horn a few times trying to do the indicator. Yeah, it's a pain in the bum. A couple of other things are very slight clutch judder. I've got a very slight clutch judder on it. Anyone else got that? Let me know. And the odd gear change with the quick shifter has been a little bit slow. It's never missed a gear or done anything wrong, but every now and again I'll get a slow gear change. I guess it's where it's waiting for the dogs to engage before it releases the power, which is a safety feature, I guess, and better than smashing your gearbox up. Now let's go on to the things I do like about it, or love about it, should I say. The looks. I love the looks. I mean, wow, the bike looks amazing. The build quality is amazing. It's great. The dash is just the best in the game, basically. It's got a fuel gauge. I mean, every bike should have a fuel gauge, yeah? It's just you need one if, especially like my R1 I had, was so thirsty, I was forever running out of fuel. It's got tyre pressure gauges. They'll show up when I ride, but they're great. Every bike should have them. Heated grips, never been one to worry about them, but a little bit of an added bonus. The cruise control. Activate it on like other BMWs, like the previous model, but it works so well. I mean, it doesn't hesitate, it doesn't jerk around, it's dead smooth. It really is dead smooth. So what I do, bang it on every now and again, take your hand off the throttle, because like I said earlier, the spring is so strong. Get a bit of like hand pump, relax your hand for a bit and turn it off you go. Another cool feature is the sat nav. Not sure if I can get this to work as we are, but you on your app on your phone, put in your destination and boom, on you go. It's brilliant. I mean, I knew where I was going yesterday, but I still entered it in, thought I'll try it out, and it works so good. It tells you how far to the next turning, and I guess you can put your headset onto it so you can listen to it as well, but I'm not fussed about that. But it really does work. I'm really impressed with that. So the next thing is comfort. For a sports bike, it's actually quite comfy. I mean, it's still a sports bike. The suspension, like I mentioned earlier, is rock hard, but the position is quite comfy. The handlebars being mounted to the top yoke here, not bad, quite comfy. The seat is comfy. The clip-ons I had on my R1 previously were like 2 inches lower, not comfy, should we say, but I like the weight over the front of that bike. This one, yes, it's pretty good. I can do 200 miles on it, no worries. One other thing I do like is the mapping of this bike. It's pretty mega. I heard someone say you can ride it in stick gear at low RPM, say 30 miles an hour, and pull out of it. So I've got my GoPro on, I've taken some video, hopefully I'll be able to upload that for you to see. You can 20 miles an hour, I can take you down 20 miles an hour in top gear and pull out of it. And 30 mile an hour it likes better, obviously, but it's possible. When you try and do that on an R1 or something like that, you ain't going to be able to do it. So the mapping is pretty sweet. So compared to other bikes, my previous bike was a 2017 R1, quite modified. If you see my other videos, you can see videos of that and what I've done to it. The R1 is a monster. It's got heaps of low down grunt. From sort of 2000, 4000 revs, the thing wants to take off. Pulling away is like difficult because it's got too much torque low down. A bit like an MT10, so much torque. They want to just flip over backwards. This is the opposite. This needs, in my opinion, a quick action throttle, and it can do with a bit more grunt. I don't know if you can get it from mapping. If you know anything about the mapping, let me know. Not sure I'm going to get it done yet because you lose the warranty, 3 years warranty with this, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I missed the torque immensely. So overtakes, you want to do an overtake on this thing, you got to be a little bit more wary. Unless you're up in the rev range, you ain't going to get past as quick as what I'm used to. With my R1, I look where I want to go, bang, I'm there. This thing, unless you're up in the rev range, it ain't going to go there as quick. Not that it's slow, but it's just slower at the low end of RPM. So I did test ride a V4 Panigale. Really liked it, yeah. Great bike. The thing I didn't like was the heat of the rear cylinders. So hot. I mean, burns your legs, burns your nuts, burns your ass. And that was on like a 20-degree day. I mean, last year was 30 odd degrees. I mean, you couldn't ride it. It was too hot. What they do say is it's a little bit better with a different exhaust that costs $4,000. You know, it's just too much money, and really, it's not that much better in my opinion. You know, they should get round this heat issue on the Panigale. The Aprilia, on the other hand, was the bike that I was going to buy. That was a toss up between this and the Aprilia RSV4 factory. I had one lined up, but it was second hand. This was brand new, and it's more expensive than this. Yet I just can't get over the matte paint scheme on it. I'm just not really a fan of the matte paint scheme, and availability and of parts and servicing and customer care. BMW customer care. I got this from Sycamore BMW in Whittam. Go see Michael in there. He's a great guy. He'll help you out. The Suzuki GSX-R 1000, that was much like the previous model of this, which has had a really vibey, harsh engine because the valve timing, the variable valve timing, and also the geometry is much like the earlier version of this, which is quite radical and very slap happy, shall we say. Had a couple of tank slapper moments on it when I test rode that. I couldn't get on with that one. So with the ZX-10R and the CBR 1000, they seem to have just given up with torque. They're basically going for all horsepower, no torque, which is, yeah, maybe okay for a race bike, a track bike, but if you want to do both or ride on the road only, you need a bit of torque. So this has shift cam engine. For those of you who don't know, it has two cam profiles in one, and it runs on the lower cam profile and switches over at 8,000, I think, RPM to the higher cam profile. Other ones have variable valve timing. The V4 has torque, the Yamaha has the cross-plane engine. Honda and Kawasaki just went, nah, fuck it, we'll just go with no torque and loads of horsepower. So they're not really any good for the road, I'd say. So if you want to watch what I do to this bike, I'm going to modify it, no doubt. I modify everything I own. You know, if you want to see, follow me on my journey, see how I change the bike, offer me any advice, how about correct some mistakes? I'm sure I've made some mistakes in this video. I'm not a bloody YouTuber, I just haven't seen enough of these S1000 videos showing enough detail, and not many people want to say about its faults. Most people want to say how good the bike is. Who mentions the faults? So subscribe and see how I get on with it.